Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Silk and More channel. It's time to cozy up and have a big slice of pumpkin pie. Earrings, of course. Check these out. Oranges, bronze, and fig tones, perfect for fall season and reminiscent of everyone's favorite treat, pumpkin pie. We're going to learn how to create earring hoops using silver silk leather chain. We're going to learn how to brick stitch and create layers of beadwork. And I'm going to show you at the end of how to kind of finish out all the threads and get everything nice and cleaned up to have a nice finished, beautiful set of earrings. Real quick, if you enjoy this content and want to see more, do a few things for me. One is to hit that like button and tell your friends about this channel, share it with your creative community, and of course, subscribe to this channel, which lets YouTube know that this channel is important and needs to be seen by other creative folks out there. So I am going to show you what the finished pair looks like, a close-up, if you will. And I'm just going to pan down right to my work surface and tell you guys all about the tools and supplies that we'll need. All right, cutters. Here I've got my trusty Lindstrom set. As you can see with the dirty plier handles, that these have been with me for a very long time and I enjoy using them, I think for the last 10, 15 years, in fact, and they've cut through a lot of things. But believe it or not, they will still cut through thread. And if they don't, I actually do have a handy pair of thread cutters or scissors with me, just in case. But I have a feeling that my old faithful here will come through. You'll also need a pair of chain nose pliers, which I've got behind me. Here we go. Trusty company here as well, rubbers. And then you'll need some Loctite glue, or you can even use E6000, which is a silicone-based glue, and either of these work really well. One dries faster than the other. The E6000 will require maybe about a whole day's worth of drying time. Just to be on the safe side, I say 24 hours. Probably like 2 hours will suffice, but it's better to err on the safe side with anything wearable, I'd say. And so, but the Loctite glue will for sure dry very quickly, and will just have an equally strong hold. In fact, so either of those work really well. And you will need some beading needles, which I've got right here. These are Tulip brand. They're size 11, and they are the most incredible needles I have ever used for bead weaving. Yes, the hole is small, and yes, the hole and the tip there is gold tipped, which is really cool. But I will say that because of how sturdy these needles are, they've never broken as much as I've used them, and I just think that they're they're amazing. They're just good quality needles. So have a set of those out, and for another option, you can even use the Beadalon large eye needles. Those work well. They're a little bit more flexible, I could say, for this sort of bead weaving, but you can definitely try and just kind of work into it. Yeah, bead weaving is a very special type of beading that requires a great amount of patience and some practice. And so the idea here is just for you guys to get comfortable with it. All right, let's talk about supplies. We will need some leather knitted chain from SilverSilk. That's this stuff right here. This is one of the 6 lines that I have of SilverSilk, 6 or 7. The leather chain, and it is essentially a 2.4 millimeter leather cord that has this intricate metallic knit that's been stitched right on top of it. It takes 6 needles that rotate in a circular manner and stitch this onto the cord itself. It is incredible. It's still flexible. It adds, again, just an immense amount of detail to the chain, and it makes it very high-end and fun to use. And what's great is that we're actually going to be knitting. We're actually going to be stitching through the knit and adding on to that textile. But I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can actually achieve the look that we're going for today. But this makes an excellent base for any sort of bead weaving. It's sturdy and it will definitely hold its form, which makes it perfect for an earring finding. So they're sold as a 3-foot spool, and I've got about I'm looking at 6 colors on my inventory table over here of this, and my plan is to get even more colors out there. And sometimes I have specialty colors that you can find in my Silver Silk pop-up shop, which for that you'll want to head over to silversilkonline.com and check out the pop-up shop store. Okay, so have some of this out. You'll only really need a total of 9 inches, so 4.5 inches per earring. Okay, we will also need the cord caps. So let me grab those. That's these guys right here. These are the Silver Silk cord caps, and they have a 6 millimeter inner diameter. Um, and the Silver Silk stamp on them. So these are just great for, finishing off these ends of either cord that's up to 6 millimeter, or in this case, since we're doubling up on the leather knitted chain, those will just fit quite snugly in there. So have a couple of these out. This is the dark rhodium colorway, by the way. Again, just going for that very fall look with the dark metal colors paired with the oranges. Kind of gives like that whole black and orange vibe, but a more pared down, sophisticated way, if you know what I mean. All right. What else do we have? We have some earrings. Sorry, so earring wires and jump rings. So that's these guys right here, also in dark rhodium and also part of the same silver silk plating technology, which is 5 layers of plating. And then the sixth is actually the metal color. But this is, going to ensure tarnish resistance, as well as just a high quality metal finish. And it's going to last you through the end of time, if you will. Next up, we've got our seed bead selection. So we'll need some size 8 seed beads. I've got this beautiful sort of light green color. It's kind of olive actually in real life. I think the light just kind of brightens it up. But size 8 seed beads are great for the eyes because the older you get, and for me especially, like my vision just is just not as great as it used to be. I used to seed bead weave with size 15 beads, which are like half the size of these, and could just see every hole of the beads in the pile, and now I can't. But these are amazing to start with. You may even want to start with size 6 seed beads if you want to, but for this pattern, we're using size 8 as the largest side, and then kind of scaling back from there with the other cylinder beads, or in this case, delicas, which you'll need 3 colors of right here. I've got this beautiful bronze. I've got a silver lined orange, AB orange color. You can kind of see there. And then like a metallic matte orange. I love this one. It's sort of a burnt orange color, and nothing screams more fall than burnt orange for me. Absolutely beautiful. Really, I could just stare at the seed beads all day, but that wouldn't be constructive, would it? Lastly, you'll need some beading thread. Now, you can go with Fireline or Wildfire, which is the more sort of wiry beading threads that are out there. They have like smaller threads that are woven together. Or you could find other matching colors and or beading threads out here. This one's 1G. I've actually not used this before, but I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. It's very soft. It doesn't really fray as easily as I thought it would. And I'm enjoying this sort of mustard orange color, which actually blends in really well with the leather knitted chain that I'm using, which is the metallic copper color, which I've titled Sunset. Sounds quite romantic, doesn't it? But like, look at this combo. Is that like, does that not just disappear in it? It does to me. It just blends in, which is good because we want all of that stuff to be hidden to some capacity. So yeah, this one's by Toho, 1G. Have a bunch of that out. And let's get into our instructions. We've got quite a few steps to go through, so bear with me as I sort of walk you guys through this. Of course, you can pause this video and follow along on replay as you wish. But you know what? I didn't even measure the size of this yet. I cut it off. But that's what we're going to do now. 4.5 is going to look like, and I'm going to use my sample here to cut that length about right there. And honestly, you can go a little shorter with this. There is no direct seed bead count for the stitching, which is kind of both very open-ended and fun, and at the same time very nerve-wracking, and I must have the exact count. OCD-ness. But again, just think of this as sort of your step into bead weaving. We don't need to take this too seriously. We just want to have fun with it. And so if we get a count or a seed bead incorrect, it just means that there's a happy opportunity to try and push it to a different direction, or perhaps change it up a little bit, make it yours. There's no right or wrong answer with this. There are a few steps you can take to make sure that it looks correct, though. All right, I'm going to bend that in half, and I'm going to create this hoop design. And I'm kind of also want to make sure and keep an eye out on my knit, just so that there is a central knit running through the chain and that it's not all twisted up. Okay, so I want to make sure that I follow along according to the knits here, that they all line up and make sure that they go up top side as they should. Sometimes if you're not careful, that knit kind of twists up into the cording and it looks like it's going to be straight, but it's not. And it can sort of throw things off. So once you kind of get all that sorted out, just grab your end cap. And this is the part that you're going to just shove it right into that end cap. One thing you want to note is that hole of your end cap should be right parallel with, I guess it'd be perpendicular. I don't know. I always get those terms sort of interchangeable. But you want the hole to be face up according to the edge of the leather knitted chain so that your earring wire and your jump ring can lay flat as such. Well, really just your jump ring. So just kind of make sure that that all lays nice and flat accordingly. I'm going to turn it upside down, and this is the part where you can grab your glue. Okay, I'm going to grab my Loctite, and I'm going to just go ahead and add a few drops right into the cap. And one good tip that came from this was actually tapping on your table to make sure that that glue goes into the end cap as much as possible. Kind of like, I don't know, tapping your baking your metal pan on the table when you're ready to bake so that those air bubbles come out. I mean, we've all done that, right? I hope I've done that. So, kind of the same principle here. You wanna tap those air bubbles out, just get them out. I'm just wasting some time and letting this dry a little bit before we move into our next step here. But we can go ahead and thread our needle, which is really the scary part for some people. But I'm going to hopefully try and take some of that fear away. I'm just going to grab a generous length of 1G, which we're all kind of accustomed to what feels right for us to handle with our beading thread. Um, if you've never bead woven before, go in short lengths, about 2 feet to 3 feet. You're going to have an easier time controlling that thread and making sure that it doesn't twist up on you. If you're an avid bead weaver and have had years of experience and are just looking for the pure joy of weaving on silver silk, hey, I say go for all 5 yards. You won't have to tie anything on, and that'll be okay. For this particular example, I think I'm going to go with the 2 feet and cut it off here. The other way that you can maintain thread is if you do cut a short length is just to go ahead and tie on whenever you're ready to swap threads and resume stitching. That's what I tend to do. And then I just kind of hide the thread into my bead weaving. Should we come to that step, I will show you guys how. But I will say that about 3 to 5 feet. I don't know if I said yards earlier, but I meant feet. Um, should suffice enough for the bead weaving for this. God, could you imagine handling like 3 yards of bead thread? Like that seems like and I don't know. It seems like a lot. Okay, I am getting ready to show you guys how to thread this needle. So what I do is I just put that hole right between my thumb and index. I kind of push that thread down between my fingers and then put the needle directly over it. And then I just push right up. And if you're lucky and years of practice, believe me, that thread will just come right out over that hole. And you have got your needle all nice and threaded. So once you've done that, we can now move on to the next step, which is going through our knits. Now I'm going to go, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to stitch on the right side. But what I'll probably do is start with my left and then flip this whole thing around, which actually is kind of a nice part of beading on something so symmetrical is that you have this beautiful luxury of moving the piece around to make it more comfortable for you to bead weave on. All right, I'm going to go through one of the knits with my needle. I'm going to be a couple millimeters below that end cap, as you can see here. I'm going to do a super close up. And that needle should go just pretty easily through the knit. And if it doesn't, here's what you can do as an alternative, is just to go directly under the hoop and right over. Okay, but let's go with this step of actually going through the knit and tying it. All right, so I've gone through the knit and I'm just gonna go ahead and tie a square knot a couple times. I'm gonna leave about a, I don't know, 6 to 7 inch. Well, and not in this case. I've got more of like a 5 inch tail here, which is still actually pretty good. You don't want to go anything above 3 inches though, because you're gonna have a very difficult time tying stuff at the end. So try and shoot for the 5 to 7 inch extra bit of tail thread here. Alrighty, so there's what it looks like tied up, and there's that step. So in the instructions, it's recommended at 7, so that's what I would go with. I think I've just done this for so long that I can get away with 5, but I wouldn't recommend it for the beginner. Definitely hit up that 7 inch. Okay, let's move on to our actual bead weaving. So we are going to pick up, and I'm going to flip this whole thing around, so get ready. Boom. Alrighty. Now I'm on this side. I'm going to hold that tail thread behind the actual form, behind the hoop. And I'm going to pick up 2 of the green seed beads in size 8 and just kind of move them all the way down to where the knot is. And I'm going to pick up a knit that is close to where that knot is. And I want to stay on the outer edge of my earring hoop. Okay, and then just pull right through and go up through that second seed bead. This is what's going to start your brick stitch. And you'll notice that your beads just sort of pop into place. Okay, we're going to repeat this, but we're just going to go one bead at a time now. So pick up a green, pick it up and drop it down. Righty, and go into a knit with your needle. There we go. It's kind of hard to like look. I was looking at the camera and I just need to look at my work surface here. And then go up through the green again. Isn't that perfection? Now, if this is going to be troublesome, we're going to do a couple more together. I'm going to show you another way that you can do this. Because I understand, like, it can be a little tedious trying to find those knits and getting it all perfectly aligned and hoping for the best. And sometimes that's what these projects are. It's just a good guesswork of stitching, but as long as it looks intentional and looks, somewhat like the example, then we're in good shape. Now, if you don't want to go through the knits, here's another thing you can do. Totally forgivable, by the way. If you want to drop your bead down, instead of going through the knit, just go through the entire hoop. And I can guarantee that if you've matched your thread, nobody's going to know. See how the difference is? I mean, we can see it because we know it's there, but whenever you're kind of out of, complete focus there, does that not look the same? So let's do a couple more using that method. The idea here, again, it's to get comfortable with bead weaving. It's to learn these techniques both ways, whether it is, whoops, the more advanced version with trying to sew through the knits versus just making it a little bit easier and, you know, finding a shortcut that works for you. Okay, there we go. Yeah, really the key here is just to find a thread that kind of blends in and you won't even see it. So basically, the idea here is just to repeat this stitch until you've gone all the way around the entire hoop to match up to the same space as where you started. Now, as you continue to layer up your beadwork, you're gonna have to do something with your thread. So I recommend having a second needle out, and what you're gonna do is, I got my needle all threaded and knotted on here, but I'm gonna untangle that real quick and show you. There we go. You want to move this thread out and into the layers, through the layers of the beadwork. So by that, I mean going ahead and threading that on to your needle and then moving it up into that next bead up. You'll see as we progress through this project that we're gonna continue to move this thread into and above those layers. So just keep an eye on that. All right. Through TV magic and some help of some friends, we've got one that's been finished already for us. Look at that. All the green has been installed. And now we're basically ready for our next layer of beadwork. So there it is in real life. And we are ready to start with our next set of beads. Now, at this point, you can switch to whatever orange you want to. I'm going to stick with the silver lined, and it's pretty much the same as we started earlier. We're going to pick up two delicas. Okay, drop those down, and then go between the first two seed beads. This is called a thread bridge. It is that little gap of thread between two beads. And so you just pull that all the way through and then go up through that second delica that you strung. And just like that, you are ready to continue stitching between each thread bridge. Okay, we'll do a few of these together. And I like delicas. They are a cylinder bead that are traditionally used for flat type of stitching. This means the peyote stitch, the brick stitch. I've seen it on herringbone. Just anything that requires like ultimate symmetry and something that has a specific pattern to it. These tend to lay really flat up against each other and don't have any funny gap issues. One thing I do want to note, because I'm seeing a thing of overcrowd or undercrowding here, when you start to stitch this, you'll notice that it'll be a little like of a distance, I guess, to get from one bead to the other. So if you need to make this lay right up against each other, don't be afraid to brick stitch two delicas in the same bead bridge or the thread bridge there. So you could see that this one's on this thread bridge here. I'm going to go back through it twice with a delicate bead. And the reason for that is it's going to lay very specifically and very close to each other. Okay. This one, I'm not wanting any gaps. So take as many seed beads and as much thread bridge as you need to make sure that those stack up against each other pretty efficiently. And you essentially just kind of continue all the way down through your beadwork. Let me see if I can do this again here. I think it's like every 2 thread bridges, I need an additional delica to be able to compensate for the size change. All right, just like that. So you'll get to the point to where you will go all the way around and meet your thread back with this extra tail thread here. So that's what this is gonna look like right over here with this sample. And as you can see, I went ahead and pulled my thread out on top of that on top of the color layer there. Sorry, I was trying to teach and explain and look and make you guys like look at an example at the same time. So I'm gonna keep my little tail thread out of the way and ready for our next layered piece. So, guys, what do we do at this point in time? I feel like we should know. We string on 2 delicas. Okay, go in between that thread bridge of that first set of seed beads or delica beads, pull all the way through, and go up through the second delica. Okay, just like that. And now we continue stitching our bronze color delica beads the same way. This one you won't have to compensate for any additional delicas or size. And the reason for that is that I am matching one for one in the size of my delica beads. I've not switched in size, which means that these are going to lay a lot more. I don't know. They're going to lay exactly to the size that I'm using. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, I'm gonna keep stitching until I get to a certain point because in the example, we are going to swap beads and we're gonna switch from delicas to our fire polish. Okay? And that's kind of a big leap. So we'll work on that together. So let me stitch down and kind of give myself a visual cue here to like switch beads. And you can start your fire polish at any point in time. Really, that's up to you. I know for sure I kind of want to eyeball it and start about right here, maybe. So yeah, I'll just keep stitching until I get there, and I'm gonna keep it marked with my thumb. And it can be just a ballpark, but this is one of those things that like we don't need to measure over measure, which I know that's gonna bother some people here watching this that need an exact count. But today we're just messing around, we're just having fun and eating pumpkin pie, but with like an earring tutorial. None of that made sense, but I'm just gonna go with it. Okay, we'll keep stitching, keep this out of the way. And there we go. Okay, so it looks like I'm probably gonna need about 5 more beads to be able to then switch to my fire polish. Brick stitch is fun. I think it's one of the easier stitches to learn how to do, especially if you're working in a flat format, kind of like this, but maybe even just like a simpler bracelet. I encourage finding some patterns online with brick stitch and practicing that way, and then stepping into the world of silver silk. It truly is a lot of fun and very satisfying. And if you are OCD, because I know I for sure am, it's great to just have things kind of pop into place. I don't know. There's just something so satisfying about the beads laying right up against and next to each other. All right. So let me see if I'm kind of eyeballing in the same path. I might have gone a little extra, but that's okay. Because every earring's going to be a little different, right? All right. I've hit that like 1/3 mark, and I'm ready to swap beads here and get the layered look of that fire polish. So I'm going to string on a fire polish bead, and I'm going to go into my Delica. You're going to notice that, and actually, while we're here, I've skipped a few steps. So, no, wait, we're still on track. All right, we've started row 3. We've stitched on some 11 size 11 delicas, and now we're ready to swap beads. So you're going to notice a large thread bridge there. And that is perfectly okay. That is actually what we're looking for. We want, on purpose, a large thread bridge. And you continue to just stitch the beads as such. The thing is, these fire polish beads, because they're 4 millimeter in size, they are going to require a little extra space. So it's important to what I think you to just eyeball and let the bead decide where it wants to be stitched. So here, it looks like it wants me to go through this thread bridge. So I am going to just honor that bead's wish, skip a thread bridge, and sew right through that third one and come right back out. Um, Also, you'll notice that because I'm on a curved side here, it's going to be super important to let the beads tell you where they want to be stitched. Because in some cases, whenever this curvature gets real tight, it's going to want 2 beads per thread bridge to be able to compensate for that turn. But for now, it looks like it wants me to go through this one. Okay, just come back up. I wasn't sure about this 1G thread, but I'm actually kind of enjoying it. I love the flexibility. I don't have to wax it, which is nice. Looks like it wants me to go in here. And it's just it blends in with my beadwork. So if I do make a mistake, it's nice to not have to see the thread to be able to then like cover it up. Okay. I'm just stringing this along and like it is very enjoyable, mind you. These fire polish beads are absolutely stunning though. They've got that beautiful hit of orange and green in the most brilliant way. Wow, look at that. So those are just going to stack up next to each other, and you want to go all the way around until you can eyeball and swap over to back to your fire polish bead, or sorry, back to your delicate beads. Okay, so you'll go all the way around up to here and then switch back to your delicas and finish this out. And you will get to a point that looks ooh, like this. Okay, you could see that there's that large thread bridge there, and that's okay. And we've made it down to our delicas on this side. So I am ready to now swap over to another color of delicas. This will be the frame that sort of sits outside of everything. And it's that beautiful matte orange color. Okay. So same thing here. Remember what we learned? We learned to string two of those of any bead that you're starting with. Go into that first thread bridge. Okay. Just go ahead and pull that thread all the way through. Get these to kind of line up next to each other. There we go. And come up through that second bead that you just strung. And now we can add our last layer of beadwork to this. This is the part where we can meditate together because it might take me a hot second to get all this stuff stitched. But I'm telling you, it is the middle of the week and I need some like bead therapy. Gets that heart rate down, gets the mind all relaxed and chill. And I'm saying something about like just the peace and silence and the repetition of beading. It is like doing yoga, but without sweating. Okay, we're gonna work up to that thread bridge because there we're gonna have to add in some extra beads. So let me at least swap over my graphics here. This is a part that we went ahead and completed earlier, which was doing the brick stitch with the fire polish. And now we're sort of at that last step of, or the last layer of beadwork with the stitched delicas here. Oh, whoops. I ended up not needing to do that quite yet. Let me back out of this real quick. Lost my meditation, you guys. There we go. Okay. There. Back on track. We are back on track. I'm going to stitch here a few more in place. Okay, we are approaching our thread bridge and we will need to cross it efficiently here. And the way to do that is to actually string a couple or brick stitch a couple delicas right onto it. So I'm going to start here. Okay, that's one. And I'm going to do one more on the same thread bridge. Did you hear that snap into place? That is the most satisfying sound ever. Okay, there we go. All right, so you see that that made a nice little jump. And we can now go between our fire polish. Now, the thing is, the fire polish is a lot larger than these delicas. So you're going to probably need about 2 beads, give or take, per thread bridge to really like make this symmetrical and lay flat. But that's okay. That's what stitching is all about, right? It's trying to get it to where it looks perfect and takes a few extra beads to do that. I will say for the amount of stitching that I've already done, this goes kind of quickly. And you can see that this is starting to build quite nicely together. Let's just keep it going. I mean, I guess if you're watching on replay, this is a good time to like fast forward until the end. And if you're just here for the magic, then by all means, I can continue talking and stitching this together, or just having a moment of silence. It's all good. There's no right or wrong answer to this. This is however we want to make it. Okay. And here. Of course, I can always go back in YouTube and chop some of the stitching down so that we go right toward the end here. That way, gets to the point a little quicker. Because I do want to show you guys. I don't want to leave you hanging on how to end the design with the threads, because that's very important for the professional finish of this design. And for those of you that are new to stitching, because I've had quite a bit of experience, I've finished out my threads in so many different ways. There really is not a right or wrong answer, but there is a inefficient way of doing things, which ends up, unraveling your design, or something comes apart inevitably, which is really what we don't want happening as we're gifting this to someone or wearing it on the go and something falls out of place. Um, would be completely unfortunate. And so, you know, meeting up with your threads and knotting it a couple times is what I like to do. And then stitching it back into your work is going to be like super important for completing this. Also, I'm just kind of excited to have like a half a earring done, because I'll have two sets of these. And then I can give one to my friend and use the other, whoops, as an example. Okay, this is actually a good thing. Do you see how tangled my thread is getting? We need to drop the needle like it's hot and let our thread unravel before we continue stitching. Otherwise, we're just going to keep running into this annoying problem. But first, I think I'm going to try and stitch in this delica so that I can have it ready. And then I'm going to drop my needle. Okay, so here we go. Just at my side and just drop it. Let it unravel and come back up, and you should be ready to go again. Very annoying when that happens. So it's definitely important to continue to make sure that your thread isn't tangled up. This happens with fireline and or with wildfire too. Really, with anything string-like, there just comes a point where you've worked it enough to where it starts tangling up and twisting, and the only thing you can do is just let go of the thread, not of like hopes or anything, because you will have a finished piece. It's just a matter of having a little bit of patience and control over your materials. Okay, it's twisting up again, so just gonna drop it. There we go. It was twisted up quite a bit. All right, I need to dump some more seed beads out. There we go. And continue stitching on this beautiful frame. Now, you could see how well that um, silver silk leather chain is holding up. It is an absolute joy of a chain to stitch with because of how structured it is, which really is attributed by the leather cord itself. Which you can imagine that the bigger the cord, because it's a 2.4 millimeter cord, the more structure and sturdy it's going to be. The smaller leather cords tend to be very flexible, but also can be a little flimsy. And I'm unfortunately not able to knit on those because of the small size, but um, this 2.5 millimeter cord is absolutely perfect. Makes a great chain for a necklace. By the way, if you're wanting to just throw on a pendant, which, hey, I'm stitching only one of these right now. Maybe this isn't an earring. Maybe it's a pendant. And I throw it on some, more leather chain. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to do here. I mean, how cool would that look? Just put a little jump ring or two on it, and hey, I'm on the go. And then I've got a bracelet, sorry, a earring and necklace set. In fact, I think that's exactly what I'm gonna do. You guys just gave me an idea. So we're talking here. Um, and I don't remember what I was saying earlier. Oh, like, so the leather chain, it makes a great sturdy form. Um, so I recommend using it for that if that is another design option for you. Okay, I'm gonna let this go one more time. Brilliant. And we will continue stitching all of this. I am determined to have a finished piece by the end of this video. Okay. A few more beads here. We're approaching our second thread bridge here on the other side, and it's basically going to be the same styling stitch as we did earlier. It is going to use two of the delicas, possibly three. I think two, though. Two should be fine on that thread bridge. And then we're basically going to just start stitching right on top of our previously sewn delicas. So let's do two and see where that lands. Okay, there's one. And two. Okay, go right up through the delica. And I think that'll be okay because what we're going to do is string on another delica and go in between this bronze thread bridge here. And we have successfully stitched to the point to where we have now approached our final row of delicas. Yay! Okay, so we'll just continue stitching and building our final row here. Okay. Again, just like I love how this just is lining up so perfectly. And I am very excited that I decided to make this into a pendant for a full set. Okay, we are approaching our final few beads here. Ooh, I think I skipped a thread bridge by accident, so I'm gonna have to go back. If you do mess up, what I recommend is just unthreading your needle, because if you try and go back with your needle, it is going to cause a bigger mess. Trust me, I've done it billions of times, just through my own stubbornness. And just to undo it, keep the bead on because we're going to need that anyway, and just go back in and re-thread your needle. and continue stitching on that thread bridge that I missed earlier. Okay, there we go. Almost to the end here. Let's see, a few more beads. When you get to that last row, and I need to see what my graphics say here because we did, in fact, went ahead and passed that second thread bridge already. The end is where we just pull both of our threads through. So I think what I need to do is add another bead here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is take my tail thread. I'm going to unthread my working thread and rethread my tail thread here. And the reason for that is that I want to bring it up to the same bead as my last stitch here. So I'm just going to go up through those two beads. You can see that that thread is coming out right above that silver lined orange. And I'm just going to pull it up and out. And at this point, you can create your knot, which is what I'm going to do, and then restitch everything back through as much as you can. So there's one. I do like to make a surgeon's knot, which is just an overhand knot, once, and then going one more time through that loop so that you have it basically knotted twice. And after you've done that to secure it, okay, pull that together. I'm going to go through the beadwork with just my tail thread and start to weave it back and forth. And I want to go about an inch into the work. Some say half inch, some say it just depends on how many things you're trying to go through. The more complicated you can make your thread path here, the better it is for the stability and the security of it not coming out because you've made that thread path so complicated. And you'll never be able to find it again if you are wanting to change this, which is actually probably a good thing because you wouldn't want this to come apart anyway. So I'm just going to make a complicated thread path, making sure that it's woven into the beadwork and that you don't see it, but you could see how far I've actually stitched through into the beadwork. And at that point, you can just grab your clippers or cutters or scissors and just nip that right off. And I'm going to do the same thing to this extra bit of thread here. I am going to go ahead and chop it off for my sanity because I don't need that much thread anymore. Okay, and then just go into the beadwork. Try and go into a different direction than where you sewed and passed your bead thread through with the other tail thread. That way you don't have them competing against each other or like trying to simultaneously come out. Okay, there we go. Maybe I'll do one more row just for my own sanity here. Okay. And I will say that that is one complicated thread path, so I am very satisfied. And I have got the most stellar beaded component and a slice of pumpkin pie that I can savor for time and time again. This one won't be eaten up, trust me that. Um, all right, so we've completed all our steps. So let me go ahead and show you the finished design one more time. And again, since I've got this nice singular piece now, I will say that it is going to make an excellent decorative pendant to wear as a set with the earrings. And I can use up the rest of my chain with it, which is perfect. I can't wait to assemble that together. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, let me know and tell your creative friends about this video, this channel, everything about Silver Silk. You could do your shopping at silversilkonline.com. I've listed all the products that I've used in the video description. And finally, just subscribe to the channel and let YouTube know that this is an important creative channel. And you can also follow me on Instagram. And that's what I have for you this evening. I know it's a longer project. It requires a little bit of extra patience and some extra technique, but here in the land of Silver Silk, we like to have the variety. There's going to be a little bit of stringing. There's going to be a little bit of wire work. There's going to be a little bit of stringing. Like we just bring everything into the mix and we dabble, we play, we make mistakes, we laugh at stuff. It's a good time. And that's what crafting is. It's not taking things too seriously, but also trying to come up with a design that you can have time in, time out through the end of time and enjoy and have some good memories when you look at it. And so hopefully we've achieved all of those things today and you enjoyed the video. And with that, I guess I'll just see you at the next tutorial. Enjoy the evening and or day wherever you are. Big hugs from us and a special thanks to Danielle Wicks for providing an amazing pattern for this design. And we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.